come.
Several other Obama-era heavy hitters now put on notice. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington with new information from the president overnight. Hey, Griff.
Here's big news. Good morning, Jillian and Rob. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal, the president says his decision to yank Brennan's clearance was born out of the special counsel investigation, saying, quote, "I call it the rigged witch hunt. It is a sham, and these people led it. So I think it's something that had to be done." Now, Brennan has been one of the president's harshest critics, accusing him of treason after the Putin summit, and just this week, accusing him of failing to live up to the minimum standards of decency and civility. Here was Brennan's reaction after being stripped.
I do believe that Mr. Trump decided to take this action, as he's done with others, to try to intimidate and suppress any criticism of him or his administration. And revoking my security clearances is his way of trying to get back at me.
Earlier in the day, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders explained the unprecedented decision to pull the clearance of the former CIA director, saying it was a series of unfounded and outrageous allegations that leveraged his status.
Any benefits that senior officials might glean from consultations with Mr. Brennan are now outweighed by the risks posed by his erratic conduct and behavior.
And there may be more to come. The White House says it's reviewing at least 9 others who have clearances, among them former FBI Director James Comey, Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, National Security Advisor Susan Rice, and former Deputy Attorney General Sally Yates. Meanwhile, Democrats are blasting the move. The Vice Chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, Mark Warner, had this to say.
This had an eerie memory of an enemies list. To me, smacks of Nixonian-type practices of trying to silence anyone who's willing to criticize this president.
So the president has a big cabinet meeting today just before noon. It's going to have a pool spray. We'll see if he has more to say about this. Rob, Jillian?
Griff, thanks so much.
And as you heard Griff mention there, and you heard from some of the Democrats themselves, they're outraged over John Brennan losing his security clearance.
But Mark Levin, who is host of Life, Liberty, and Levin, says the Obama administration didn't even use those clearances effectively while they were in power.
The Russians interfered in our election, right? Well, who was president? Who was head of the CIA? Who was national security advisor? Who was the head of the FBI? All these people, with their security clearances, in positions of power, did nothing effective to stop the Russians from interfering in our election. They did nothing to stop China from stealing our technology. They did nothing to stop North Korea's nuclear program. And even worse, they awarded the hold it, Mark, the terrorist regime in Tehran with $150 billion, right? With $150 billion, and provided them with a pathway to nuclear weapons. Good job, boys and girls in the Obama administration, with your security clearances.
The White House has accused former Obama administration officials of having politicized or monetized their public service. One of the women arrested for child abuse at an alleged Muslim extremist compound has been living in the U.S. illegally for 20 years, if not more. Janai Leviel is in ICE custody after overstaying her visa and could be deported back to her native Haiti. She's facing charges with her husband and 3 others after police found 11 kids living on their filthy New Mexico compound. The body of another child was also found on the property. Prosecutors say they were teaching the kids to carry out school shootings. The DA is appealing after a judge granted them bond.
The family of the missing Iowa college student has the support of the White House. Vice President Pence meeting with Molly Tippett's father after his speech in Iowa.
But I just want Molly's family to know you're on the hearts of every American. And we will continue to work, and we will continue to pray for Molly's safe return.
The 20-year-old vanished nearly a month ago after going for a jog in Brooklyn, Iowa. Officials have been getting so many tips, they just added a second server to the website to keep the page up running, the tips website. Police also denying reports that they're zeroing in on a suspect who helped search for Molly. They say that's not true.
Turkey says it's willing to negotiate with the U.S. after the stock market slides. The lira dropping in value, posing a threat to other global economies as the U.S. and Turkey struggle over trade relations. The U.S. placing economic pressure on Turkey after the government refused to release American pastor Andrew Brunson. He was arrested in 2016, accused of spying and terrorism, charges he denies.
The former NSA worker who leaked classified information to the media faces the longest sentence ever for that crime. Reality Winner, her name, pleaded guilty to emailing documents about Russian election meddling to a news site back in June. Her plea deal calls for 5 years in prison. Prosecutors want the maximum of 10 years to deter more leaks of that kind. Winner will be sentenced next week. We'll wait and see. And in just a few hours, House Republicans will restart their investigation into alleged FISA abuse. DOJ attorney George Toscas, who you're going to see here on the left, right there with the circle, will be questioned this morning. He is mentioned in those text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. He's also expected to be asked about his relationship with Bruce Orr. Orr is under fire for his ties to Fusion GPS. He worked for the DOJ under Obama. He is set to testify behind closed doors on the 28th.
The Paul Manafort case is now in the hands of a jury. The verdict could come down at any time today, although the jury must decide on 18 individual counts. Lawyers from both sides pointed to the testimony of Rick Gates during their closing arguments. The defense argues that Manafort's former employee and star witness for prosecutors has credibility issues. Manafort is on trial for bank fraud and tax evasion.
All right, we're going to go to Janice now with a check of the weather. That white dress is perfect for these hot summer days, Jan.
Thank you for noticing, Rob. Happy Friday Eve.
Yes, it
Right.
is Friday Eve.
Right?
I do love a Thursday.
I do too.
We're going to see Janice in rare form tomorrow.
Yes,
as
we
well.
are.
Oh, will there be cameras?
There's going to be a boozy brunch.
What?
And,
did I get the invite? Yes, I did.
Yes, you
I
did.
think
We're celebrating Rob's birthday on Friday since it was Monday.
Yes.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
I didn't know that was.
That's what I'm doing.
And then mine's in a couple weeks.
That's
Oh
right.
my gosh,
We're
fantastic.
going to celebrate both birthdays.
Hey, let's do a little bit of weather.
Let's do
Hey,
that.
why not?
As much as I love talking about birthdays and boozy lunches. Okay, current temperature 76 in New York, 73 in Chicago. We do have the potential for a little bit of rainfall across the Midwest. It's going to be humid across the East Coast, but you know what? A look ahead to next week. East Coast looking good. Not too hot, not too humid. Here's the past 24 hours watching the potential for heavy rain across the Midwest now. Flash flooding is going to be a concern along with strong to severe thunderstorms perhaps this afternoon. So keep that in mind. And then we look at the West, remains dry. I'm a broken record here. Dry conditions and very warm temperatures. Fire danger across portions of the Northwest and the Northern Rockies. I can't wait till Friday.
I know.
Woohoo!
The irony is Janice, who has all this personality, when you get a couple drinks in her, she becomes very quiet and introverted. She won't say anything. She'll just sit there quietly on her phone. And
It's not even true.
That's not true.
is that fake?
At all.
Is that fake
There's
news?
so much dancing going on.
Thank you.
Somebody bring a camera.
We'll have that. Don't you worry.
Don't
See you
worry.
later.
All right, Fox News alert now. Al-Qaeda making a chilling comeback. The UN revealing bin Laden's son is emerging as the terror group's new kingpin. Our next guest, Aaron Cohen, has hunted the worst of the worst. His warning about why the terror group is more ambitious than ever.
I'm not sure I even know what socialism is, so I just don't have the background to answer that question.
All right, she just became a gubernatorial nominee for a major political party, but she can't define socialism. So it was an awkward moment, and it got more bizarre. We're going to show it to you coming up.
Lose my mind. You make me crazy.
Fox News alert, like father, like son, the United Nations now warning that Al-Qaeda is making a comeback in the Middle East.
The son of Osama bin Laden is heading the terrorist organization.
That's right. Joining us now is Israeli security and counter-terror veteran Aaron Cohen. Aaron, thanks for coming back. And we're seeing all this attention over the last few years on ISIS. Everybody talking about ISIS. And in that time, Al-Qaeda has maybe benefited from not being focused on, right?
Absolutely. And, well, you just nailed it. So for the last 5 or 6 years, ISIS, who has been a master at manipulating the media. You have Al-Qaeda, who essentially got smashed into pieces by Army assets over the last 15 years. Delta Force, U.S. Army Rangers, and Green Berets had been in Afghanistan, literally just crushing these guys along with the Taliban into submission. But what happens as soon as everyone started focusing on ISIS, Al-Qaeda quietly does what terror groups do. The difference this time is that we are seeing the re-emergence of a new leader, which is usually the first red flag. And that means that by attaching the son's name to the terror organization as the leader, remember this son, by the way, his name is Hamza bin Laden, ended up marrying the daughter of Muhammad Atta, who was one of the lead terrorists who had crashed into one of the towers on 9/11. So this is a monster psychological recruiting campaign right now. That's what terror organizations do. So what they're doing is they're putting him at the top of their profile. They're trying to blast this out in the PR machine onto the black web and essentially begin recruiting. And the fact is that terror groups today are going underground. They're not going to be fighting it in the streets of Iraq and Syria like we saw with ISIS. We did a great job over there when President Trump came into power by unleashing our forces. But now we're going to start to see a resurgence. But this is all going to get done quietly through what I've been calling nomad terror groups, or groups that can operate individually quietly.
Well, Aaron, you know, as you mentioned, it's been a couple of years since we've really been focused on Al-Qaeda because we've been spending so much time talking about and worrying about ISIS. How has the developments in the online world, social media, for example, how is that going to play a role here in this? Will it?
Well, that's an excellent question. It absolutely will. The reason why is that electronic warfare, which we have used for years in order to be able to thwart various attacks from China and other countries who've tried to infiltrate us through the web, terror organizations are exploiting that as well. They're using it for recruiting. They're using it for training. They're using it to further indoctrinate potential recruits into joining their organization. And so the internet allows this re-emerging Al-Qaeda, or well, let's call it Al-Qaeda 2.0, if you will, to be able to get all of the information they need from a computer. And like we saw with this attack in Westminster in London just the other day, you have a lone wolf. Again, a nomad terror tactic. These nomads can operate independently now. Al-Qaeda got smarter. They're reorganizing. The light's been off them. So we need to really start focusing our intelligence efforts at this Al-Qaeda 2.0 so that we can begin to infiltrate this group or re-infiltrate this group undetected, because that's the key here again, intelligence. Let's find out what they're up to so we can get our forces positioned correctly.
Scary.
It is. The frustration is with these groups and terrorism in general, it's like trying to treat cancer without a cure. You bat it down, and as soon as you walk away, it just comes right back up, and it comes up in different places. I'm sure the frustration is real. Yeah. Aaron, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, guys.
It is 16 minutes after the hour. An ISIS cop killer living right in our backyard, even working as a mechanic. How could this happen?
And a behind-the-scenes tour of the last blockbuster video in the United States. Can you believe it? Kevin McCarthy is here.
Yes.
He's going to take it back to the 90s.
What's up, buddy? How you doing, man? Good to see you.
How are you?
Are you reeling in the years? Stored away the...
Good morning and welcome back. Happening right now, news groups nationwide firing back at President Trump for his attacks against the media. The Boston Globe organizing nearly 350 outlets to stand up to what they call a, quote, dirty war against the free press. The Globe's editorial says journalists are not the enemy. The New York Times, Philadelphia Inquirer, Chicago Sun-Times, and Miami Herald all posting their own versions overnight. No comment yet from the White House, although I'm sure we'll hear something.
Yeah, today is the big day for that. Another editorial, though, taking aim at a top politician, another top politician. This time it's Nancy Pelosi, the Sacramento Bee, putting out the headline, Dear Nancy Pelosi, it's not about you, it's about your party and country. Forget being speaker. Pretty bold. The board writes, Pelosi says that while no one is indispensable, she is still the best person for the job. If you'll recall, similar statements were made about the eminently qualified Hillary Clinton, and we know how that turned out. The Bee joins a number of Democratic lawmakers and congressmen calling for her to not seek another round of speakership. They want her to step down and walk away.
So about About a year ago, I was going through an old wallet. I thought of my Blockbuster card. I thought I was the only one that still had it, but apparently not. And today we are taking you back to the 90s with a tour of the last Blockbuster ever.
It's crazy. Fox News contributor Kevin McCarthy joins us now with a behind-the-scenes look at this relic.
This is very surreal for me because as a kid growing up, I rode my bike to Blockbuster all the time to rent Terminator 2 Judgment Day. And then my favorite city on earth is New York. So to be in New York City talking about a story where I visited the last Blockbuster is very surreal for me.
Yeah.
And it's
So
like
crazy.
a full circle moment for me. It's very weird, but I'm in the greatest city. So yeah, it's amazing. It's in Bend, Oregon. So up until July of this year, there were 3 Blockbusters left, 2 in Alaska and 1 in Bend, Oregon. The 2 in Alaska announced they were closing. They closed down officially. They opened up for inventory sale. And the last Blockbuster you can rent a movie at now is in Bend, Oregon. So Fox and Friends was nice enough, and I gotta give a shout out to Samantha Honig for sending me out there. Met me in Bend, Oregon. We went to the last Blockbuster. They put me to work. Here it is. This is awesome. Okay, this is amazing.
Hi.
I'm in Blockbuster.
Has it been a while since you've been here?
I have some older films I wanted to return, The Sandlot and True Romance. I'm not sure how the late fees will be.
We'll check them in and see how bad it is. Welcome back in the store, though. How about a t-shirt?
That would be amazing. When I walked in here for the first time, it was genuinely a flashback to my childhood. I was a kid riding my bike to Blockbuster every single day. I had a red Schwinn bike, a red Terminator 2 or whatever movie I wanted to see, and I would go home and watch it. Blockbuster was a second home to me.
Thanks for waiting, guys.
I mean, this is amazing that people are still renting films this much. It's not just a nostalgia thing.
With everybody that's been here to visit, the one thing I hear every single time they come in is, oh my God, it looks like a Blockbuster. And I'm like, of course it does. We are Blockbuster. Welcome to Blockbuster Video. You can still find the movies exactly the way they did in 1990. So it's really fun, and customers are loving it.
And this is not owned by Blockbuster anymore. This is privately owned.
When Dish Network acquired Blockbuster out of bankruptcy, we signed a licensing agreement to continue using the name. As long as we can continue to pay our employees and customers are coming in the door, we're going to stay open.
Are you getting more people who want to work here now because of the story?
We have had more applications. In fact, I'm trying to hire right now. So
Can I work here?
You could absolutely work here. I've got a badge
Okay,
for you
all right.
already.
This says my name on it. It says Kevin. Look at that. I am legitimately now a Blockbuster employee. Now I just need to learn how to do everything. They're putting me to work here. Genuinely putting me to work. First try. So is this normal for like a Monday morning? I expect a paycheck. I want to rent a movie, and there's a specific film I'm looking for called Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I was wondering if we can go maybe look to see if it's in the store.
So let's go down here to the action section.
Okay. I'm not seeing it here, which is making me a little upset. Can we go let's see if it's been checked out and if it's late or not?
Yeah,
and if it's late, I want to call a person and tell them to bring it back immediately.
Okay, I'm sure they would enjoy a phone call.
You guys have the classic IBM computer.
Floppy disk and all.
That's amazing. Watch me in action. Hi, Brian. My name is Kevin from Blockbuster. We were just calling this as just a courtesy call to let you know that the film Terminator 2 is almost 2 days overdue. Brian, real quick, what'd you think of Terminator 2? Wasn't that scene great? That's my favorite scene in the whole film.
Hasta la vista, baby.
It was awesome talking to you, man. Thanks for your business. That was legit. It's unbelievable. I want to meet this guy now.
Yeah, it was me, man. I just talked to you a second ago. Kevin, right?
Yeah, this was not planned.
It's not planned.
You just happened to be dropping it off. Show the movie. You brought back Terminator 2.
This is the first movie I saw in theater with my dad, and it was the best memory of my youth. It's the main reason why I'm so into Blockbuster in general. I love coming here.
Cool, man. Awesome meeting. Thanks for bringing it back, buddy.
And then you would thank your customer and send them on their way.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. All right, now that I have Terminator 2 back in my hands and also a little film called Jaws, I am ready for my movie night. I have all my candy. Sandy, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You're amazing. Hi, guys. And I got to say this. Always remember, be kind, rewind. Yeah!
Oh, that's so great.
Gotta thank Samantha for that package. By the way, that was legit. The guy was about to walk out the door with the 5 films he had rented. One of them was Terminator 2. I thought when he said I'm returning them today, he meant he was coming after work. He walked in about 20 minutes into our story that we were shooting. That's all real. And that guy had a similar story that I did when I was a kid. Yeah. Terminator 2 changed my life when I was 8 years old.
And you had the floppy disk and the old computer. It was like being in a time vacuum.
It was unbelievable. I actually
and you got some shirts for us,
yes,
right?
I do. I have the shirts actually say the last blockbuster on them, which is awesome.
So exciting.
This is for you,
Thank
Jillian,
you.
and for Rob.
Thank you, sir.
Honestly, this has been an absolute honor to be able to do this story for Fox and Friends, and thank you guys so much.
No.
This is like, I'm literally going to have like tears in my eyes.
We
This is
love
crazy.
you.
You're the man for the
We're
job.
in New York,
Thanks,
man. This
buddy.
is wild.
We appreciate it. Great job.
I
Great
love you
story.
guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
26 minutes after the hour, he has raised millions to impeach President Trump. Now, liberal billionaire Tom Steyer thinks police and military members are not Americans because they hold guns.
And have you heard what New York's liberal governor Andrew Cuomo thinks about America? Listen to this.
We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great.
Jackie Ibanez and Carly Shimkus tag teaming it here with those stories next.
That's my friend Carly.
We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great.
New York's governor and one of President Trump's nemesis, Andrew Cuomo, under fire this morning after you heard it there, trashing the United States.
Yeah, Jackie Ibanez here live with how the president is responding today. Hey, Jackie.
Hey, good morning. Cuomo's comments lighting a fire under President Trump after undermining his slogan, "Make America Great Again."
We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great. We have not reached greatness. We will reach greatness when every American is fully engaged.
And the president tweeting soon after, quote, "We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great." Can you believe this is the governor of the highest tax state in the U.S., Andrew Cuomo, having a total meltdown? Cuomo's team walking back the comments just hours later with this statement right here. The governor believes America is great and that her greatness will be fully realized when every man, woman, and child has full equality. Cuomo himself apparently not getting the memo from his very own team, lashing out at the president, tweeting, quote, "Real Donald Trump, what you say would be great again would not be great at all. We will not go back to discrimination, segregation, sexism, isolationism, racism, or the KKK. Like New York's motto says, Excelsior, ever upward, not backward." Now, the comments could hurt the governor's chances against Democratic Socialist Cynthia Nixon in the upcoming New York primary. Cuomo was also considered a potential 2020 candidate for the White House. The Republican candidate for Cuomo's seat, Mark Molinaro, will react live on Fox and Friends just a little bit later this morning, so stay tuned for that. Jillian?
We will be watching. Thank you, Jackie.
Yep.
A suspected ISIS fighter wanted for killing an Iraqi police officer is arrested on American soil. According to the DOJ, Omar Amin arrived in the U.S. in 2014, months after murdering the officer with a group of terrorists. He allegedly concealed his links to terrorism, applying for refugee status, saying his family was a target of violence in Iraq. He's been living in Sacramento, California, and working as an auto mechanic. He'll likely be extradited back to Iraq.
Incredible story here. A truck driver who came within inches of death after that Italian bridge collapse is speaking out. That man telling a local newspaper in Italy, quote, "I put the van into reverse to escape this hell." He says he watched as the car in front of him going across that bridge just disappeared. Rescuers still sifting through the rubble after the structure plunged to the ground more than 100 feet. 39 people at this point confirmed dead. Italian officials demanding resignations from the construction and maintenance firm, which claims that the bridge was properly taken care of. This is an unbelievable story.
The guy who smashed President Trump's Hollywood Walk of Fame star is standing by his actions.
What I did, I believe, was a rightful and just act. I think that the repercussions of it were only positive, and I only wanted to bring about positive political change.
Austin Clay isn't denying that he destroyed Trump's star, but he still pleaded not guilty. TMZ released video of the July incident showing him hit the star. You see it right there with that pickaxe tearing it apart.
Well, he has spent millions trying to get President Trump impeached, and now liberal billionaire Tom Steyer thinks police and military members aren't American because they hold guns.
Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115 here with the response online. Hey, Carly.
Hey, good morning, guys. So the crux of Steyer's argument is that the budget unfairly favors the military over other programs like education and healthcare. He says every single program that ends with a man holding a gun is up 30%. And that is not how America is going to prosper. Now, if that sounds kind of like a stump speech, well, you're right, because he says that he is not ruling out running against President Trump in 2020. Anne on Twitter thinks that the government should be pumping money into the military. She says, Tom Steyer, it's called protection, and I am pretty sure you want protection for everything you have prospered from. He is a billionaire. And Christopher says, how does he think this country was founded by people with pens? Interesting commentary there.
Interesting. So this story's been getting a lot of play here. An 11-year-old girl kneels during the national anthem.
Yeah, that's right. We've seen it, of course, on the sidelines, but now it's happening in our schools. An 11-year-old girl in Maryland knelt during the national anthem, or rather, I'm sorry, the Pledge of Allegiance in her classroom.
It is in my rights that I am allowed to kneel. Students are allowed to take stands as long as it's not disruptive. I feel that my confrontation was more disruptive than kneeling itself.
So Mariana Taylor was speaking at a school board meeting there. She says that a teacher told her that she was violating school rules and she left her classroom in tears. Hillary Clinton saw a video of her speaking, retweeted it, and also supported her, saying it takes courage to exercise your right to protect injustice, especially when you're 11. Keep up the good work, Mariana. Well, of course, this is a highly political issue and emotional issue. Ryan on Twitter says it's disrespectful to kneel for the Pledge of Allegiance or national anthem. Another Twitter user, Brian, says that's just great. Encourage our young kids to just respect the flag. Another Twitter, though, supporting her, saying, I think she can do whatever she thinks is right if she's not harming anyone. So a big debate over this 11-year-old girl.
And this Colorado baker we've covered so much with his Supreme Court victory now back in the news.
Yeah, back in the news because he is suing the state of Colorado, claiming it is trying to punish him for his religious beliefs. Take a listen.
It feels like being targeted. Colorado Civil Rights Commission is coming after me again after the United States Supreme Court has told them that they were hostile to my faith and that they can't do that. And yet here we are again, the same situation.
All right, so the new suit, the new legal battle stems from a request he got to make a cake for a customer celebrating their transition from male to female. He claims that the customer asked him to make that cake to put him in an uncomfortable position, and he is seeking $100,000 for emotional stress and lost work. So back in the news, more legal battles for that cake baker, Jack Phillips.
Yeah, but he's tired of all this. All right, thank you so much, Carly. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
It is 37 minutes after the hour. One day, over 100 overdoses, dozens of people hospitalized after taking a synthetic drug.
Yeah, this all happening in one park in Connecticut. The weirdest story. We're live in Connecticut with the brand new light being shed on the nationwide drug epidemic. It's coming up. Welcome back. An effort to generate a blue wave in Illinois falls flat. Former Vice President Joe Biden forced to cancel plans to attend the state's Democrat Day today. Biden is sick and under doctor's orders to not travel. He was scheduled to be the keynote speaker at the event to help rally up support for Democratic gubernatorial candidate J.B. Pritzker.
Here's a question. What is socialism? A Democratic candidate for governor can't answer that question during an interview on CNN. Watch this.
It does sound like you look more favorably, again, the labels you have an issue with, on the ideas behind socialism.
Well, yes, and I'm not sure I even know what socialism is, so I just don't have the background to answer that question.
Christine Hallquist won Vermont's primary election this week, becoming the first transgender gubernatorial nominee in the U.S.
Very interesting. All right. More than 70 people dropping like flies after overdosing on synthetic marijuana. This horrifying scene unfolding all at one park in Connecticut in broad daylight.
It's really incredible. Kayla Mamalak from our Fox affiliate is live in New Haven with all the details. Kayla.
Good morning to all of you. Yeah, sheer chaos is the way witnesses describe the scene out here. They say sirens coming from all different directions and first responders running from person to person, desperately trying to treat semi-conscious drug users. Now, within a 24-hour span, nearly 80 people overdosed in the city of New Haven. Authorities say they suspect it was a bad batch of K2, possibly laced with other hard drugs like opioids. Now, the first overdoses were reported around 8 p.m. on Tuesday on the New Haven Green. That's where we are right now. It's a park right in the shadow of Yale's old campus. Now, the park quickly became a violent scene of mass overdoses, and by Wednesday morning, police say they were notified of several other overdoses, not only in the park, but all over the city of New Haven. Now, as of 10 p.m. last night, the number of overdoses clocked in at 76 people. City officials say at least 2 people had life-threatening symptoms, but luckily there were no deaths. Now, New Haven police also arrested 2 men on Wednesday who they believe are connected to these overdoses. Both men were in possession of K2 at the time of the arrest and charged with drug possession. Now, a little bit of background about the park we are at right now is that a little over a month ago on July 4th weekend, there was another case of overdoses out here. About 14 people overdosed on what was then also believed to be K2. There were no deaths in that case, and most of them, again, taking place right here in this park. That is the very latest here live in New Haven, Connecticut this morning. I'll send things back to you guys in the studio.
Kayla, is it normally a park where it's families, people out enjoying lunch? Like, what is the park normally like?
You know, it's an interesting question because it is right in the shadows of Yale's college campus. So the question really is now is how are there so many drug users? And you can just look behind me here. It's a quiet, quaint, beautiful park. Looks like a place where families could come. Looks where college summer where there was a mass case of overdoses out here.
Oh. It boggles the mind. It's so bizarre. A beautiful park like that. I can't imagine what that looked like. Kayla, thank you so much. All right, let's check in with Steve Ducey, see what's coming up next. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Rob. Hey, Jillian. Good morning to you on this Thursday. Coming up on Fox and Friends, we've got a couple of great guests. Greg Jarrett's going to be joining us. He currently has the #1 book in the United States of America. It's all about the Russia hoax. That's the name of it. He's going to be talking a little bit about whether or not the president was right to get rid of the security clearance for the former CIA director. Also, we're going to be talking about Larry Kudlow and how he has got his finger on the pulse of the numbers, economic numbers, that are so important to the midterms. Plus, you've heard some cities are thinking about banning some straws. Well, PragerU went to Santa Barbara to ask local Californians what they thought about that. Listen to this.
Do you think we should ban plastic straws?
I do.
Why do you think that?
Because they're bad for the environment.
What do you think's worse? Plastic straws here or people coming into this country illegally?
Oh my God, plastic straws.
What? And there's a lot more where that came from. PragerU's Witt will join us live. Now, listen, the thing about plastic versus paper, Jillian and Rob, is after about a minute, the paper straw starts to disintegrate. And then why bother?
It's gross.
That's why they want paper, because it falls apart. It disappears. Plastic doesn't.
I can't help it. I'm a fan of the straw, Steve. I use it in my coffee every day.
Mm-hmm. And the mahogany quartz looks great.
Would you eat weed killer for breakfast? I mean, maybe not intentionally, but a deadly chemical was just found in a bunch of cereal.
It's actually really scary. Yeah. Tracy Carrasco from our sister network Fox Business here with more on this terrifying discovery. Tracy.
Yes, good morning. This really is scary because the Environmental Working Group, this is a nonprofit health group, they just did a round of tests and they found that in popular oat-based cereals like Cheerios, Lucky Charms, even those Kind bars, Nature Valley bars, and others, they did contain a level of herbicide glyphosate. That is the active ingredient in Roundup Weed Killer, which at high levels can be linked to cancer. In 43 of the 45 cases that they tested, there was some level of this herbicide glyphosate. And this is commonly used by farmers in the pre-harvest. They apply it to their crops there. So one of the brands tested, that was Quaker, they found that the reported levels of the chemical are significantly below any regulatory limits and compliance with standards for human consumption there. So very scary to think about. This isn't just in cereals, but also crackers, cookies. You think of other things that have oats. Jeez. Yes.
How many billions of pounds of Quaker oats have I eaten in my life?
Right.
Yeah. That's not good to hear.
Tracy, you're here, so.
I'm still here.
You're okay.
For the time being. Tracy, thank you so much. That's not good. It's definitely not organic.
The Center for Disease Control now warning of a major measles outbreak spreading to nearly 24 states.
Joining us now with your health headlines this morning is assistant professor at Rowan University, Dr. Jen Cottle. Doctor, thank you so much. And we're talking about measles.
We are.
What do you think that?
It's back in the news.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the CDC is tracking cases, and right now we have about 107 reported cases in about 21 states. The significance about that is that the last 2 years, we had like 118 cases and 86 for the entire year.
Wow.
So we're already at 107, and so we're only halfway through. We have yet to see what's going to come.
So how can people protect themselves? What should people be doing?
Honestly, the biggest thing is vaccination, quite honestly. There's a MMR vaccine for measles, mumps, and rubella. You get it when you're young, 2 doses of this. The most important thing parents can do is to make sure their kid's vaccinated, but also knowing the symptoms is important.
The fear of autism, I think, is the reason that people are backing away from vaccination so much. Is that why we're seeing this increase?
Well, that's a really good point. First of all, I think there's a couple of increases in the measles because, number one, many of the people who are spreading it, yes, are unvaccinated. Many people are concerned about autism, but let me be clear, vaccines do not cause autism. So please get that vaccine. The other thing is that measles is still widespread in some countries throughout the world. So when people travel, it can be spread that way as well.
Real quick, you mentioned just a second ago the symptoms. What are some of the main ones?
Right. So cough, irritated eyes, runny nose, high fever, and then a rash that spreads over the entire body. And it's highly contagious, so highly contagious.
And whether or not to hit the snooze button is the next topic. When you're trying to get a little more sleep, something we know very well.
I hit the snooze button like 17 times. I'm not kidding.
I think I hit it 17 times this morning, actually. So there's sort of a little bit of a controversy. Should we be hitting the snooze button or not? Some people say, well, look, if you hit the snooze button just to help yourself wake up, may not be so bad. But if you hit the snooze button and then you fall right back into a deep sleep, it may actually mess up your circadian rhythms, your hormones, and cause you to actually feel more groggy throughout the day. So, it just depends.
I've always heard that if you wake up naturally, you should just get up. Like your body just, it'll reward you for that. And I don't know if there's any science.
I definitely think it's best not to hit the snooze button. You know, if you can not hit it, don't hit it.
Okay. And so exclamation points are causing stress? Is that how I'm understanding that?
Well, I did read this article. Wall Street Journal had an article about how exclamation points are causing people stress. I have to be honest. I do this. I use a lot of exclamation points. And the concept is for those people who use them a lot are used to reading them and getting that reinforcement. If someone doesn't write an exclamation point, they say, oh my God, what happened? Are they mad at me? Oh, is there something wrong? So
we've gone so soft.
What are you going to do?
What has happened to us?
Yeah, I know. We got to toughen up, don't we?
I think we do. I think we really do.
Thank you very much.
Doctor,
appreciate it.
We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
It is 6 minutes until the top of the hour. It was 2010 when we got a first look at a toddler smoking cigarettes at just 2 years old. Now another kid is picking up the habit. The boy lighting up 2 packs a day.
You gotta be kidding me. And this couple right here gives Footloose a whole new meaning. The not so smooth moves that sent them straight into the Boston Harbor. It's like the Tea Party all over again. Stay tuned.